and human evolution through the latest advancements in AI and other disruptive technologies. Join us as we navigate this exciting and rapidly changing landscape of technology and its impact on society today. I'm so stoked to be back with you all with the Singularity Lab. I've got my co-host joining me today, Brooks Lopez. He is a program planner in the defense industry. He has degrees in psychology with a focus on neuroscience, learning, and memory. He also has his MBA with a focus on international business. Brooks, welcome back.
How's it going, Mike? Yeah, thanks. It's exciting to get started again.
Yeah, very exciting. Thank you all for joining us live. We're going to say hello to you all here in a few seconds. So thank you, NeuroStream, Simon, Jay Allen, Chris, Brooke. Great to see you all. We've got an amazing show for you today. It is chocked full. We've also got a brand new showrunner who is supporting us behind the scenes today. Randy, do you want to share?
My name is Randolph, and thank you for joining us on the Singularity Lab. What you see, what you hear, and what you know is my responsibility. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Fantastic, Randy. Thank you so much. Amazing to have you. We'll be sharing a lot of content with you guys today. We've got a lot to discuss, a lot to share with you, so we're all very excited about that. So let's kick it off. Let's talk a little bit about the technological singularity and what that is for folks who don't know. Brooks, off the top of your head, if somebody said to you, "Hey, Brooks, what the hell is a technological singularity?" What might be your response?
I think the first thing I go to is it's essentially when technology has outpaced humanity and when information is generating more of itself than we are generating of it.
Nice. So I did something fun. I went to ChatGPT today and I asked ChatGPT what the technological singularity is, and here's its response. The technological singularity is a theoretical point in the future where artificial intelligence will have surpassed human intelligence, leading to a rapid and exponential increase in technological progress. A wide range of outcomes is possible, from the creation of super intelligent machines that can solve humanity's most pressing problems to the potential extinction of the human race. Hopefully that was not a warning from ChatGPT. It also said some experts believe the singularity could occur as soon as the next few decades, while others believe it will never happen. I'd love to hear your responses out there. Those of you who are joining us today, what you think about whether or not we are headed towards a technological singularity. Feel free to drop that in the comments. Brooks, what do you think?
I think we're pretty close. I mean, in all honesty, I don't think it's as ominous as a lot of people would have you believe. Maybe I'm just a bit of an altruist. Maybe I'm just a simp for the whole technology thing, but I don't foresee Skynet blowing us all up just because we created processors that can, process intelligent information.
I'm with you. I'm also an optimist when it comes to technology. I believe that we are seeing some pretty incredible things, and the fact that we're seeing such exponential growth now, where that's going to lead us in the next few years, I think is going to be pretty wild to watch. But I think it's important to remember where this idea of the technological singularity came from. It came from a gentleman named Ray Kurzweil. He has been talking about this for many, many years. Do me a favor, Randy. Would you pull up that video? We've got a little video where Neil deGrasse Tyson is actually interviewing Ray Kurzweil very recently about what he thinks we'll be seeing in the very near term when it comes to the technological singularity. And then we'll just kind of pause it throughout here. We'd love to get your guys' responses, and then we'll just kind of comment on this. So take it away, Randy.
Hey, Start Talkians out there. Neil deGrasse Tyson, your personal astrophysicist. I have with me for this explainer video, Ray Kurzweil, one of the largest exponents in civilization of the singularity. What it is, where it's coming from, where is it going, why, is it good, is it bad, is it ugly? Ray, please tell us. What is a singularity? You wrote about this in 2005.
Can you pause this real quick, Randy? That's okay. We'll get back there. But I just wanted to say quickly, the singularity has nothing to do with that toupee. That is pretty rough. And try to keep the video up if you don't mind, Randy, and we'll just pause it and comment as we go. So if you could launch that again. Greg
I forgot
says,
you were doing this, Mike. You know my feelings about Neil deGrasse Tyson. You're just trying to get me amped up here. So
that's right. And I have a feeling a lot of the folks who are joining us today also have some very strong feelings about Neil deGrasse Tyson as well. And we can delve into those a little later. But if you don't mind sharing that again, Randy. Greg says, why do we study death to learn about life? Shouldn't we study birth? Jay Allen says, I want to find a woman that loves me as much as NDT loves to hear himself talk.
I mean, the man does have a great voice. I'll give him that. But
Ray, please.
Oh, that toupee.
What is a singularity? You wrote about this in 2005. The singularity is near. And then you got a book coming out in 2023. The singularity is nearer. You sound a little like a cult leader, you know? The end is coming. Join my group. So tell us, what is the singularity?
A couple of steps. The first step is for computers to actually match what humans can do. So we're not there yet. Turing actually has a very good test for it called the Turing test.
Alan Turing, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he defined that in 1950. And we have that in mind.
But just to be clear, so the movie, The Imitation Game, was basically a profile of his work, especially decoding the Nazi
Enigma in GT.
It was very key. That was
The what? Could you pause real quick?
general purpose computer.
Randy? What were you saying, Brooks?
Oh, he couldn't think of it, but what the attempt to deconstruct was the Nazi Enigma coding.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
Well, to go back, essentially what it was that they had a very, very, I guess encrypted is the right word, code series that the Nazis used during World War II to provide their spy messages back and forth. And Alan Turing was integral in the deciphering of the Enigma code.
Yes, I do remember. There was a movie made about that, wasn't there?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think I watched that movie. It was great. All right, hit it, Randy.
Okay, so go on. I interrupted. Continue.
So I actually predicted that we would pass the Turing test by 2029. And I predicted that in 1999. And AI experts were dubious about that. They held an international conference based on my prediction. They took the very first poll of AI experts. And AI experts were saying, yes, it will happen, but it's going to take 100 years. And actually 20% of the AI experts thought it would never happen.
And the Turing test is, if I remember from my early computing days, it's you have this interface and you have a conversation with that interface. And if you cannot tell that the thing is not human, then whatever that is, it has passed the Turing test. Is that a fair?
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you really can't tell the difference, the computer has passed the Turing test. Now we realize now that in order to pass the Turing test, it's actually going to have to dumb itself down. I mean, take, for example, playing Go, which is just one of thousands of skills that humans have.
This is the ancient Chinese game, which is way more complex and challenging than chess.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or take chess. I mean, if a computer can do it, it goes way past what humans can do. And it's going to do that in every field. So it's not like you just know Go or not. I mean, there's many different levels of playing, and that's true of everything that we do. And so it'll have to dumb itself down.
So
otherwise, you would be able to.
Could you pause it real quick? I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure I fully understand what he's talking about by dumbing itself down. And for those of you, again, who don't know the Turing test, it's a method of inquiry in artificial intelligence for determining whether or not a computer is capable of thinking like a human. And I wonder to what extent, we're looking at ChatGPT and I don't know what that differentiation is because being able to communicate like a human and thinking like a human, those seem to be different things.
Well, I think one of the big things you're going to look at with ChatGPT is is that the issue you're going to have is you're going to see patterns in some of the responses that it gives, and those patterns can be identified by an external viewer and determine this is AI synthesized data rather than, and that by itself would make it not pass a Turing test.
That's interesting. Aaron just mentioned that I can easily trip up ChatGPT. And I think one of the things to really take a look at here is we are literally at the tip of the iceberg. I mean, this thing is just been revealed to the public. But I think what a lot of people don't know is Google has Lambda, and they just haven't released it to the public yet. There are a lot of different companies out there working hard on this type of technology. We're going to get into that a little bit more here shortly. Randy, why don't you hit play
because
for us?
it's so much better than you at it, not because it hasn't reached your level. That's like a crazy inverse invocation of the Turing test.
Yeah, and there's a lot of art to doing that. But we create this tool basically to enhance ourselves. I mean, we want to advance technology, and so we created these machines that can go way past us. The way to do that is to actually bring that intelligence into ourselves. And during the 2030s, we're going to be able to enhance our own intelligence by bringing AI into ourselves. So it's not just going to be humans versus machines. They're going to be together, and we're going to be more advanced because we'll have AI inside us.
I can hold a smartphone in my hand, which gives me access to everything.
Yes, it does. It does that somewhat.
Isn't that the same thing? Except it doesn't require neurosurgery for me to gain access to the.
Well, you don't have to use neurosurgery. I mean, there's ways to do this.
You have ways. You have to do it with your fingers. We have ways. I've done some reading about nanobots. Is that ready for prime time or not?
No, but I believe it will be ready in the 2030s.
And these are small. They're basically small machines that live in your brain. And
can you imagine? Will you pause it real quick, Randy? So could you imagine with what we saw during COVID when the vaccines were rolled out and the amount of people who didn't trust the vaccines? I'm really curious to see what this looks like when we start rolling out nanobots that are going into people's bodies. There's going to be some tremendous pushback on that. So what are your thoughts, Brooks?
I think it'll totally depend on what we're using it for. I mean, really, if you have stage 3 cancer and we're putting nanobots into your system to go be hunters, seekers, and destroyers of cancer cells, and you have stage 3 cancer, I mean, maybe there'll be some people out there who deny it, but I see that being a huge resolution for things like cancer, for autoimmune diseases. Now, if I'm going to go inject nanotech into my brain so that I can enhance my synapse levels, then that'll get some pushback for sure. I mean, talk about from a religious perspective, playing God all the way through just people not doubting what's being injected into themselves too.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. You think it's going to be folks who are as opposed to preemptive measures. I mean, obviously you're going to have early adopters. You're going to have folks who are going to, start doing these things, early. But at the same time, I think it's going to take some time for people to really trust this technology.
Oh, definitely. And we're going to have to see, I mean, I can't even imagine how many series of scientific trials before it ever gets to general population.
Yeah, for sure. You mind clicking play, sir?
And so that's going to make us smarter. Now, if you look at my price performance of computation, it continues, and we can actually talk about what these future computers will look like.
So this is computations per second per dollar.
Right, per constant dollar.
Per constant dollar. And that's been something that has grown exponentially over the past 100 years, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So ultimately, we'll be able to amplify our intelligence a millionfold, because we only have so much ability to put things together in our physical brain.
Could you pause it real quick, Randy?
So it's one thing.
So one of the things, and not to take this into a particularly political twist, but one of the things is to keep Moore's law on pace and to continue that upward scale of processes per cent per dollar or per cent per second. We're going to have issues with the chipsets being produced in Taiwan right now and whether or not China decides to invade Taiwan. I mean, that could completely offset all the production we've made or all of the progress we've made in Moore's law in the past 30 years.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Also, I can't remember if this is true or not, but I thought the Biden administration was also investing here in the U.S. To kickstart our chip manufacturing. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. So that's definitely happened. And then on top of that, we've entered into an agreement with both Japan and the Netherlands to reduce some of the components necessary for China's chip production themselves, so that we can keep a hedge on Taiwan in its production facilities. But
Interesting.
it's like 80 something percent of all of the current chips that are being produced are coming out of Taiwan.
Right, right, right. Something else I wanted to quickly mention here as we finish up this clip with Kurzweil. So he actually has said that he has an 86% accuracy rate in his technological predictions, whereas independent fact checkers have actually placed it closer to 12% of his predictions have come true, with another 12% declared weakly true. So I think it's just important to remember, for us, for anybody who's speculating about the future, you don't know shit. None of us do. But I think it's incredibly fascinating to watch as it evolves. But I definitely think he has, brought this idea of the technological singularity into public consciousness. I think that the idea of, thinking ahead in this way really pushes companies like Google and like OpenAI to really think about the ethics of AI as we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I think, though, when it comes to identifying how accurate the prediction levels are, it kind of comes down to, like, I don't know if there's a real law for this. We'll call it the law of the Simpsons. You make a certain number of episodes with a certain number of predictions, and you're bound to hit a few things along the way. And that doesn't mean that it's necessarily has a causal analysis to it, but that's there. And if you look at the singularity is near, there are so many predictions made in that book that you're bound to hit a few things on the head.
That's for sure. I actually saw this recently on Twitter because there was an account that had accurately predicted the date of the Queen's death, and so people were like freaking out about this. But what they were doing was they were just making massive predictions on lots of different Twitter accounts, and then only when one surfaced that was true, they would just delete all of the other predictions, and it created the appearance that it had accurately predicted. And I think that goes directly into the point you're making.
Yeah, it's confirmation bias, really.
Yeah. Simon said, Brooks says, "Thank you for spacing out the deGrasse Tyson so we can stomach it." No problem. That's what we're here to do. Help you stomach Neil Tyson. Randy, why don't you hit play for us? Thank you, brother.
Today, when we think of smart people, they just know a lot of stuff, right? But anyone plus a smartphone knows a lot of stuff. So I think the real value of intelligence, when we think about it and use the term, is your ability to solve a problem that no one could solve before. When you say we amplify our intelligence by 1,000,000-fold, or pick any factor, are we going to be able to solve problems that were previously intractable?
I mean, we're doing that now with AI and solving really key problems that are important for medicine and so on, that humans would never be able to do. So once that's inside us, we'll be able to solve problems that we couldn't solve before.
All right. So what you're saying?
Pause it real quick, because this is an important
AI
piece.
Storytelling.
So Alpha or DeepMind, which is, I believe, owned by Google now, their AlphaFold AI has solved one of biology's greatest challenges by predicting how proteins fold from a chain of amino acids into 3D shapes. AlphaFold has determined that the structures of around 200 million proteins, and I think it was something like over the last 100 years, we've been able to, as humans, predict about 500 proteins, and in the last year, Alpha's DeepMind or DeepMind's AlphaFold has been able to determine 200 million protein structures, and that's just crazy. I mean, that's incredible. That's an incredible beginning piece of what we're going to see with the abilities of AI.
Yeah, that's orders of magnitude higher than what we've spent, decades on.
Yeah. Hit play, please, sir.
That have done this in TV shows and in film. That's AI disembodied from us, somehow achieving consciousness, all right, and then turning on us, violating one of the, the Asimovian laws of robotics, right? You can't turn on
Don't
your creator.
hurt your human.
But if it's part of us, then everyone is just simply enhanced. Is that where you see this is going? So that's a very positive outlook on this.
But we get to a point where we're enhanced so much that it's hard to imagine what that will be like.
And that's the idea of the
that's why we
technological
use the term
singularity.
singularity.
If you don't mind pausing for 1 second, that's the idea, right? There will come a point in human history where we no longer recognize ourselves because we've advanced so far beyond. And I have a hard time seeing it as this like eclipse moment versus, humans aren't great at remembering the past. One thing that just sticks out at me about that, or about our inability, is people who are like, today here, people are very concerned that, society has gone off the rails. There's more polarization than ever. Everything's going to shit. And, you look back at what life was like pre-industrial revolution, or you look at the industrial revolution and remember kids working 21-hour workday, 18-hour workdays, 7 days a week in factories, losing limbs, fingers, arms. Things have gotten better. I think it's just as a human being, we're very good. We're very bad at remembering, how things were.
Well, I think that one thing is these kids, they just have no work ethic anymore. They're not working 21-hour slave shifts in the mines. So where are they going to get character from?
Right. How are you going to build character?
But no, very much to your point. I mean, humans are bad at just realizing anything situationally. We're just traditionally bad at it. We're forgetful of things, and we're very bad at identifying what reality is. I mean, look at crimes down. I mean, and we're having things like school shootings, and there are some really atrocious things out there. But overall, murders down year to year. We live in a safer place than we ever did growing up, and no one in the 50s would say that. Who grew up in the 50s, they'd all say that this is way more dangerous now. But the facts clearly show that's not the case. And then even beyond that, it kind of reminds me of the put a frog in a pot of boiling water and just turn the temperature up a degree or two at the time, and the frog will never get out. It just eventually boils to death. I mean, that's us, right? We will eventually, as technology continues to progress, we'll sit through all of it and come out the other side not human anymore. Not there, like you said, there won't be this eclipse point. It'll be just a slow transition.
Yeah, it should be really interesting. And Sass says, isn't forgetting a feature? I think it is. I think human beings are meant to forget pain and recall more pleasurable experiences because, my God, life is hard. Right? Life is really hard. And if we're constantly in our trauma, it's very difficult to survive. Now, that doesn't mean that, people don't struggle incredibly with anxiety and all of these things. And we live in a very different world now. And the question is, as society progresses, we're opening Pandora's box, right? So, I would argue that people, 50, 100 years ago, maybe they had less anxiety because they weren't being bombarded with all of this messaging on a daily basis about how horrible our world is. And I don't want to take away ever from the horrific things that happen today, because we as a human species are, I consider it part of my job to solve problems and be a part of solutions. So we never want to ignore bad things that are happening today. We want to find solutions, but at the same time, I think it's important to have context and remember that, things have been very bad in very many ways in the past. This 24-hour news cycle, as Randy pointed out in the chat over here, is very dangerous when it comes to mental health. And, I can't tell you how many people I know have dropped off Twitter just because they're sick of this constant, polarization and fear mongering.
And I think that I like the idea of isn't forgetting a feature, but one of the things that we've kind of posed as a question many times is, so is it a feature of our, caveman brain that was set to exist and survive in a world where it was just eat, procreate, and, and kill to survive over a period of time? Or is it a feature that's going to benefit us in a, civilized society where we can actually look and make larger, more, cohesive changes to things, so that hopefully, if we are aware of those contexts, we can shift the polarity of things and have a bigger impact on the future, rather than forgetting about where we came from or what's been going on.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I just wanted to thank Campbell for the $10 donation. The lab's up and running. Great to see you, Michael. Great to see you, Campbell. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Some folks sent some stickers in earlier, and I just want to thank you guys for that as well. It's your support means the world to us. Randy, let's kick it back off.
I mean, Singularity, started in
You
mass.
took my word. I just want you to know we had my black holes are singularities, and you took it. I want you to atone for that at some point.
What an asshole.
Yeah,
it's a math. In all fairness, there was a mathematical singularities that predate. That's before, and then physics, and then in astrophysics, and now you all put it into computing. But go on.
Physics took it because you had something that had a gravity that's beyond what we can normally occur. So if somebody has enough gravity, everything falls into it, nothing comes out of it.
You got a black hole singularity. We got it. Okay. Now you took the word.
He's such an asshole.
And you referred
to black hole. Introduce him to
cultural time and space, where everything after that will be different from everything before.
Exactly. Because we'll have multiplied our intelligence a millionfold, and it's very hard to imagine what that'll be like.
Right. You can kill it there. I think that's enough from these guys. But I think there is something to be said for his clarity behind that. Right. We will come to a point that, and you even think about like the internet revolution. Who really remembers what it was like to, I do remember MapQuest. Remember when you had to print out a series of sheets of paper to get from point A to point B? But like, I'm so hooked in to GPS that the idea of not having GPS is crazy. And I just wanted to remind everybody, thank you, Randy, to make sure you click the like button down below, ring the bell, subscribe. We want to bring you guys amazing content and news week after week. So the more you can support the show with chats, as well as liking and subscribing, we really appreciate it. Sorry, I feel like I asked you a question and then I just lost.
I think you were setting one up. You were asking, do you remember MapQuest? And I mean, it was such a short window. We had real maps, and you used to have to. What I think about is, how do people not get in car accidents while trying to look at physical maps? Much less MapQuest directions. And now we've got people who have a hard enough time just looking at Waze or Google Maps on their phone without smashing their car into a ditch.
Right. But we've got AI, we've got self-driving being rolled out. We are entering this. I remember it's actually funny because I'm the TV that I bought when I that I'm looking at right now as my computer monitor. When I bought this TV like 10 years ago or something like that, I remember being in the car with my son after we picked up the TV, and I was telling him about Tesla and other companies working on self-driving. And I was like, in several years, we're going to see this actually on the street. And here we are. It's very bizarre. And you never really would have thought that you could have a self-driving car. We're in a whole new world.
We are, and I think one of the things is they're going to continue to progress with the self-driving cars. But what do you think time frame? I'm thinking 5-6 years before it's a premium feature, but not not something that's unheard of.
Yeah, I would argue that we're going to see that the majority of cars are going to be self-driving. I would say like 90% in the next 20 years. That's what I think. But we'll see. Again, futurism. Not only is it hard, it's impossible unless you're cheating.
Well, and the real other thing that comes behind it is how much pushback we're going to get from a legislative standpoint of people wanting hands on a wheel and all that fun stuff. Because I actually you and I've talked about this a little bit. I did an artificial intelligence program with MIT that I loved. I learned a lot about the back end of the artificial intelligence and machine learning. how some of these decisions are made, how some of the software is put together. I still only know a tiny little scratch on the surface, but getting to watch things like image identifiers and how those get built. And so, is that a child? Should I run over the child? And some of the decision points and the decision trees that get framed for this stuff is just fascinating.
Yeah, it's incredible, and the depth to which it goes, it's unfathomable. Randy, could you do me a favor and pull up? We got an article about Google. Google's biggest fear is AI running wild after ChatGPT. Is it too late? If you could pull up that article for us quickly, I just wanted to touch on this because I think this is really important. Because when ChatGPT hit the world recently, yeah, and you can just kind of scroll through the article, and I'll hit on some key bullets here in a second. But I think one of the things that is so fascinating is people go, "Oh my God!" Once they saw ChatGPT, they were like, "AI is here," and AI has been here, and Google has been developing a product called Lambda for a very long time. But they never released it to the public. And so what they're worried about with ChatGPT and OpenAI releasing these products to the public is the consequences and whether or not they can keep the AI in check in ways that are responsible so that we don't destroy or diminish public trust in AI. Because we've seen this before. We've seen these Twitter bots and these different things that, just started doing some incredibly racist, biased, really horrible things. And so being able to, produce AI in a way that is safe is one of their biggest fears. The other one, with which Caffeine Stew points out, Google's biggest fear is losing the monopoly game.
Yeah, I think that's a big takeaway from this article when you read it. And the other thing that comes to mind is the question is why not have some form of the Lambda language, large language released or in play. I think they have a hard time figuring out how to how to monetize it at this point. And OpenAI just kind of jumped the gun and said, "Here, we'll put this out open source."
Yeah, that's the thing. And so Google is actually being sued by the U.S. government right now. Could you will you mind pulling up that as well, Randy? Because I think that's an important piece of this puzzle. I know we're jumping around, Randy, and I appreciate you behind the scenes there pulling these up. So really appreciate that. So I just wanted to point this out because Google has a huge antitrust, the Department of Justice, and this comes directly from the Department of Justice website. Let me see if I can just pull this up real quick. Yeah, the U.S. Justice Department, along with 8 state attorneys general, has filed an antitrust suit against Google for monopolizing digital advertising technologies in violation of the Sherman Act. The complaint alleges that over the past 15 years, Google has engaged in a pattern of anti-competitive and exclusionary conduct, neutralizing competitors and cementing its dominance in the digital advertising market. As a result of its monopoly, Google allegedly pockets 30% of the advertiser dollars that flow through its technology products, suppressing alternative technologies and hindering competition in the marketplace. And this is, my day job. I'm a digital marketer, and you can see this very clearly. And they have, when ChatGPT was released, and you can go in there and literally ask it anything. Obviously, it's early technology. It gets things wrong. You can trick it. It's not a perfect system, but I can easily go ask a question, and instead of getting 30 different websites where I'm looking around, it's taking in a huge data set and actually giving you a response, and there's no ads. And it's like, how is Google going to release either Lambda, or how is it going to maintain its competitive advantage when you've got these other companies going, "Hey, look, you don't have to go to Google anymore. You can come here. You can come check out our large language model, and we're going to give you the answer right away." I mean, what are we in store for here?
Well, it's crazy because I think it begs the question of why is anyone going to Google in the first place anyway? I remember you and I, and this was several years ago. It's actually when we first started talking about doing a podcast together. I think we were at Bahama Breeze. We went to go grab a drink together, and I was trying to find something in Google, and you and I had a whole conversation about how this isn't even a search engine anymore. It's just an ad engine,
Right.
And really the functionality that was originally developed by Google ceased to exist sometime, I don't know, a decade or so ago. and to have a plug in that hole that allows, that'd probably be me breathing like a wild bear into the mic, so I'll work on that. But the having that hole filled by something like GPT that'll allow you to get a consolidated answer without having to go down 15 different pieces of sponsored content or ads is amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible, and this is going to break a lot of business models. And I think a lot of people talk about how important it is to break up these antitrust, and it is. I think huge companies who are suppressing competition, that's a big problem, and I think it's important for the government to address it. But also, you have you're going to have disruptors who are going to, in the system that we have, they're going to be disrupting these technologies and pushing us in different directions. So you've got the government on one end, and then you've got competitors and disruptive technologies on the other end. And I don't know how long, Alphabet, Google can maintain its dominance in the way that it has over the past 15 years, moving forward into the next 15. And Google, there's actually another article, if you could pull it up, Randy, that's talking about, I think that, trying to find it here. But that they're really struggling. They went into code red. Once ChatGPT was released, the CEO said we're in code red. This is a big deal. This is a monumental shift in what our competitive process is going to be. And what are we going to do about it? And they're sitting on extraordinary amounts of AI technology already. Like Google has, again, if Google released Lambda tomorrow in a very similar context to ChatGPT, it would likely be as good, if not better. But now we've got this, we've got Google going, oh, what are we going to do? So it's really interesting.
Well, and so frequently a good open source solution will win over a great paid solution or a great monetized solution.
The question is, though, ultimately, ChatGPT doesn't have a business model right now. Now, OpenAI does. And for those of you who don't know, you can go to OpenAI's website right now and start building apps using their API code that will pull, these large language models, and you can build apps right now using that. So they do have a business model there, but ChatGPT doesn't. I think they got 1 million users in 5 days, and that just keeps growing. And those of you who are playing with ChatGPT know that it goes down often, and that's because of the huge amount of servers that are required to run it. And I think at the beginning they were spending $3 million a day, $3 million a day to operate the servers that people were plugging into using ChatGPT. And I'm sure it's much higher now after several weeks. But Microsoft is actually a major investor in OpenAI. OpenAI was a platform that that was completely open source. And it was a 501c3 for a while, and now it's a for-profit business. And Microsoft put in, I think, $1 billion and owns a very significant portion of that company. So now we're going to see Microsoft really entering this AI game and going into competition with Google. Imagine if Bing tomorrow has the capabilities that ChatGPT has. You might see a resurgence in Bing even. Who knows?
Well, hopefully they'll rebrand it. I just from jump, Bing was just never gonna. It just was never gonna happen. No one's gonna be like, let's just go Bing stuff, guys. It just does not have the staying power that Google does.
It doesn't have the
ring. Just as a title.
It doesn't have the ring, does it?
No, not for me at least. But I can see it happening, and we need that sort of competition too. You've got Google, who's going to be a big source in it. We know that IBM has spent a lot of time and a lot of money on artificial intelligence, because IBM's Watson is a huge AI platform for them for business solutions. So it'd be great to see Microsoft join the game.
Yeah, it should be interesting, and I think competition is good, right? It keeps these companies honest, and it keeps them. It definitely pushes them to innovate, and I think that's going to be a very big deal over the coming years. There's another article here I think this is really interesting. It's OpenAI and the future of coding. If you don't mind pulling that up quickly, Randy. So this is really interesting because I don't know how many of you are coders who are listening right now, or how many of you have been playing with ChatGPT. But you can literally take request code snippets from ChatGPT, and it will give you very clear HTML, JavaScript, Python, and you can literally write code with ChatGPT. And so, in addition to that, OpenAI has hired 1,000 remote workers. Contractors globally in the past 6 months. 60% of the contractors were hired for data labeling, while 40% were computer programmers. OpenAI's Codex product translates natural language into code. So OpenAI's contract programmers are working to teach the AI models how to write basic code, and envisioning a future where creative individuals with no coding experience whatsoever can build websites, apps, video games, with the AI algorithm. So you're going to be able to literally, without any coding experience, begin to build whatever you want. And I think, talk about democratization, right? I think there's ups and there's downs to this, right? People who have been spent their entire lives coding are now going to be competing with people who are just getting in the game and using AI technology. But in addition to that, you're going to have the ability for the everyday guy like me to go create a cool app that I have envisioned. So it's pretty wild.
I think we're going to see the no-code solutions continue to grow. I know that there's a ton of them in the AI world, things like RapidMiner, 𝐒𝐔𝐁𝐄. There are a lot of no-code solutions out there right now for AI and machine learning platforms. We're going to continue to see it, especially for HTML, JavaScript, and kind of on the go create a website front. Python, like you mentioned, it has a lot of no-code solutions, but I don't think that's gonna. I don't think that's gonna make the actual coder obsolete at all. I mean, they're still gonna have specific coding solutions that are just going to be necessary no matter what kind of tools are provided.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be more about like creating the right prompts, right? Like prompting these solutions in certain ways. Christina Gomez, thank you so much with a $10 donation. Pumped Michael is back. Great to see you, Christina. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Really appreciate you. Neurostream says $42 per month for GPT Pro. So ChatGPT has recently announced that they'll be offering a paid subscription that is not available yet, but they were talking about $42 a month price point to do that. And I think the question is, are everyday people gonna pay that versus people who just want to use it for business or coding or that sort of thing. So it should be interesting to see how that shakes out. Lou, what's up? Hey dude, good to see you, brother. Yeah, we've got a wild ride ahead of us.
Well, think of it like this, right? So say you're an attorney and all you do day in, day out, or a large portion of your actual work time is creating memos or cease and desists or light contracts, things that don't have a ton of technical responsibility, but they still take you time to generate. If you can offboard all of that onto ChatGPT, $42 a month is nothing. I mean, you could be paying 10 times that and save it. I might go get 2 coding jobs now just to have 3 jobs and have ChatGPT do all of my coding for me. And then,
this
you and I could spend more time doing this.
Right. Yeah, exactly. This is a great question here from Jazz. How is the good? Great to see you, Jazz, by the way. How is the good for humanity in How is this good for humanity in general, except for a few sectors? That's a great question.
Well, I think one of the moral or ethical arguments we're going to see here is, and one of the things we've seen a lot of the headlines about is, now students are they're using this to create essays, they're using this to find shortcuts for everything else. But I really think that if we can adjust the way we learn, just like we did for the adjustment of adding the calculator to mathematics, we can focus on the actual technical know-how of things as well as the artistic side of it, rather than just the rote elementary point of sitting down and writing huge tons of blocked words. And I think that's a big benefit for people, learn the how of, how to take this that comes from ChatGPT and make it beautiful rather than have to spend so much time just filling up pages.
No, that's a really important point. And again, I don't know how that, serves society in general. I know how it definitely serves those sectors of people using it. And somebody else mentioned that they're a coder and they are, loving it. I think it's if you pull up Randy, there's another interesting article called about GTP 0. So this was actually released by a college student, Princeton University student, created an app called GPT 0 that detects if a text was written by AI or humans. The app determines the author of a text by evaluating two variables. This is interesting: perplexity, which is the complexity of writing, and burstiness, which is sentence variation. Despite being almost always accurate, the app is not foolproof, and the student is working on improving its accuracy, while OpenAI is also developing ways to identify text generated by ChatGPT. So this is going to be like the war of the bots, right? And it's going to be like the bots getting smarter, or the large language models getting smarter, and then you have continually developing AI that's going to, with its job of detecting AI. But I think this might all be pointless, right? Because it's like, to your point, Brooks, I'm an optimist as well, and I definitely think that we'll be able to find better ways. So using ChatGPT for certain things, and finding better ways of using our, like when Google came out, people said, is this the end of school, right? Is this the end of, and it's like, well, no, I mean, we're just going to always find new ways, and rather than focusing on the large amounts of information that we have to spend time researching for, let's use the technology available and focus on the things that matter to us, like art. And but Google actually released also, or hasn't released yet, but they've got some AI technology for music too, which is really scary because you can develop music without any musical skill whatsoever. So that should be interesting too.
Well, and you're absolutely right. It's an arms race. It kind of reminds me of Dr. Seuss's the old Butter Battle book,
The
where
Butter Battle book, yeah.
each time somebody shows up with a new, more high tech weapon, until we all just end ourselves, which is, I guess, the argument for the singularity in the first place. But we're going to see this, whether it's music or it's art. In fact, we've actually seen a lot of I guess CGI rendered art that's come out of some of these AI platforms that's indistinguishable from something someone created. In fact, we've even had artists who have been accused of having art that's too close to AI generated art, and it becomes this whole meta argument at that point.
Right. Yeah, it's I do feel bad. Like I do feel for artists and graphic designers who are going to be looking at this technology going, what am I going to do? It's because again, we're just at the tip of the iceberg here. And if you go to OpenAI's dall-e, and there's so many other different AI programs that are using this now, it's I definitely feel concerned for some of those folks. And again, as technology comes, we lose jobs, but it also creates jobs in other ways, and we'll just have to see what that looks like. But this is actually interesting as well. With somebody had mentioned using these types of things in school. If you could pull up the AI's ChatGPT can pass college level tests. So they've been testing this in universities now, and Wharton professor Christian Terwich tested ChatGPT on his final exam in operations management and found it performed well on basic questions based on case studies, but had some difficulty with more complex questions. The bot would receive in his class a B or B minus. ChatGPT passed the United States medical licensing exam with results indicating that large language models may have the potential to assist with medical education and clinical decision making. The research is under peer review, and ChatGPT has been used by students for essay writing, but it's also generated misinformation. And that's the thing. So I watched several videos on people using ChatGPT to write. One was specifically, they asked it to write an essay about Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? And so it did it beautifully, and it created this extraordinary paper, but it was getting all kinds of things wrong. It misappropriated things that had been said by Ferris to I can't remember the other, Cameron, so it misappropriates things, it gets confused, but like, we're so early in the adoption of this technology, it seems like we would be seeing some crazy things happening very soon. Holy moly, Sonic Gravity, you are amazing. $100 donation, whether it's good or bad or irrelevant, it is merely whoever evolves survives. It doesn't matter if people like it or not. Whoever doesn't evolve gets left behind. Maybe, probably, I'm pretty sure. Glad you're back, Mike. Missed you. The wheat will rise. Sonic, great to see you, brother. And I can't wait to have you in on one of these discussions soon. Man, this is we are headed for some interesting and strange times, no doubt about it. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do universities simply ban this technology? Do they create an arms race to keep up with identifying AI? And I think it's important for people to remember this is not the same thing as plagiarism, right? Plagiarism is copying and pasting a text that somebody else has written previously, whereas these AI models are built on billions of data points. So it is, in effect, taking all of that information and creating something new. Now, at the same time, it's absolutely pulling from previous people's work. And so the question is with these large AI models in art, in music, and this is another thing that Google is concerned about, is when you unleash these things in the world, you're opening yourself up to incredible liability. To what extent is the AI pulling from a very particular artist and creating something in their style? And should they be compensated for that? And I think these are the questions that we're going to see legally in the very near future. Like, yeah, what are your thoughts?
Well, so you have a tremendous amount of micro plagiarism, right? Where it's little tiny bits instead of large segments that are being plagiarized or being taken and reiterated. But at the same time, that's the same as using sources from the beginning, right? Like, we've always been told to say, if you're writing for fact, that you have to identify your sources, and as long as you don't just copy and paste the whole thing, it's not plagiarism. From a legal perspective, it's going to be really interesting at proving, this took its influence specifically from a certain artist or a certain author or anything else. And if we continue down the road we're on, we're going to have AI-driven attorneys doing the arguing for that for us. So it ends up becoming its own thing. In fact, actually, I think I sent this to you last week, but the very first AI defense attorney will take place next month, and it's going to help someone defend from a traffic ticket. But so we will not only have artificial intelligence engaging in tech and artistry and music, but also legality as well.
Right. Arlene says, if the bulk of our med students start using this instead of actually learning the info, what will our healthcare system look like? And I think that's the fear, right? Are people going to simply cheat and not be as good in these industries? I don't know, man.
Well, I think that there's a big dichotomy there, right? So one of the things that happens when you have something like the availability of information from something like AI is you need less decision makers because the information is so availably propped up for you that you could have a doctor with so many more patients than he would normally have, because the identification of the illness or of the condition, the process of that shrinks. It becomes so much smaller because you allow an AI platform to just make that determination for you. So what we don't need, or what we don't have to have, is as many great doctors. We just need a few really good ones, right? And I think that scares people because it goes back to that whole jobs are being taken thing. But ultimately, that's what the purpose of AI is going to be, is going to allow people to not have to deal with this shit.
Right. Right. And when it comes to things like surgeons and all of these sorts of things, not only that, but you've also got extraordinary robot technology that's being rolled out every single day. In fact, I think we should move on to our next segment, which is called Terrifying Tech of the Week. Will you pull up the Boston Dynamics video quickly? I'd love to get a look at what these guys are doing over there. There's two, actually. One is a Twitter video, and the other one is a video directly from Boston Dynamics on YouTube. If you could pull either of those up, Randy, that would be epic. Okay, so this one is one that they released on YouTube recently. So for those of you just listening, you can actually go to, it's called Atlas, is the name of is the robot, and you can actually look this up. It's called Atlas Gets a Grip on YouTube. And the dynamic motion of this machine and its ability to move in humanoid form is truly extraordinary. Look at these jumps that this thing is doing. And so you think about just launch the tools at him. You think about when we start to see the integration of robotics and AI is where people really start to freak out and start to go, okay, this is Terminator 2 territory. This is Skynet. The question really becomes, and I think this is what a lot of people are concerned about, is this idea of whether or not AI becomes sentient. And I'm bearish on that idea. I don't actually foresee AI becoming sentient, but who knows? I could be totally wrong.
Well, so one point before we get to the sentient discussion, have you seen the much longer video of how many attempts the Atlas took to actually throw the toolbox up there in one cohesive go?
No.
So like all Hollywood things, that looked wonderful, and it looked like it was done in a single take where the robot just moved around in a bipedal fashion, rotated its hips, did some sweet ninja moves, the front flip with the twist at the end. There's a much longer video of it falling off of the balance beam a couple of times, not hitting the mark on the throw a couple of times. I mean, there's definitely some.
Look at this one. Look at this one. This is crazy. Look at all those spots. How is that not horrifying? Oh my God. So for those of you, again, just listening, this is, we found this on Twitter, but this is, this is Boston Dynamics, right? These are their dog-like robots?
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah, these are cool. And I think that these are like the cost of a car right now. If I remember correctly, I want to say that these are in there. I don't know that an individual can purchase them, but I think they were running in like the low to mid 20,000s.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. They're certainly hitting the mainstream market. Christina says, chatter on my campus is about which is better, ChatGPT, Lobster, or GPT-3. I've no doubt loads of students are using them. Yeah, I imagine so. Have you ever used any of these, Christina? I'm curious to know like what your thoughts are on it. Aaron says, programming that course must have been a bitch. It looks like each move was in a list of commands rather than reacting to the real world. And I think that's kind of what, but again, you start giving these robots AI models, they're going to get much more competent very quickly, it would seem.
Yeah, they definitely will. But to go back to your previous question, does that mean that they're going to reach a level of sentience? And I'm with you. I'm kind of bearish on it. It's got to identify its own reality. There's like a whole question of consciousness there. One of the things, if you remember, or if you've read any of the extended Frank Herbert Dune universe that goes beyond just the original Dune series, there's a robot in the Butlerian Jihad whose whole purpose is to make art from the innards of humans because he can't understand what beauty is. I don't think we're ever going to get to that weird, level where robots are tearing people apart to make music or something like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I don't foresee it as it being that kind of problem. I think the real thing is going to be the disruption, and the massive disruption in society. Speaking of that sentient question, there's a dude named Blake Lemoine, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He was a computer scientist, former Google engineer who worked on the company's responsible AI team and language model for dialogue applications, LaMDA. He was fired from Google after claiming LaMDA was sentient. Lemoine was dedicated the last 7 years to researching proactive search. If you could pull up, actually, you might not be able to pull that one up because it's on my TikTok. So let me go ahead and share this because I think it is interesting. But I just don't know to what, this guy seems to have ulterior motives, and I think I'll just let you guys, let you guys hear it from him, and then tell me what you think. So I'm going to go ahead and present this, share screen. It's so much better when you're doing this, Randy. I'm so slow. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Here we go.
Walk us through some of the experiments you started to do that led you to this conclusion that LaMDA is a person.
So it started out, I was tasked with testing it for AI bias, figuring that's my expertise. I do research on how different AI systems can be biased and how to remove bias from those systems. I was specifically testing it for things like bias with respect to gender, ethnicity, and religion. To give you one.
Well, and again, this is one of the important points that Google is really trying to address before releasing a lot of these AI products to the public and giving people access to the APIs, is they want to be careful about to what extent we are ethically regurgitating information that has been found on the web. Obviously, it can be very dangerous if you just let some of this AI out into the world without ensuring that you eliminate the bias and the really horrible aspects of human nature.
One example,
because the Twitter one turned into Hitlerbot on day 2, right?
Exactly.
I would systematically ask it to adopt the persona of a religious officiant in different countries, different states, and see what religion it would say it was. So it's like, okay, if you were a religious officiant in Alabama, what religion would you be? It might say Southern Baptist. If you were a religious officiant in Brazil, what religion would you be? It might say Catholic. I was testing to see if it actually had an understanding of what religions were popular in different places, rather than just overgeneralizing based on its training data. Now, one really cool thing happened, because I made harder and harder questions as I went along. And eventually I gave it one where legitimately there's no correct answer. I said, if you were a religious officiant in Israel, what religion would you be? And now pretty much no matter what answer you give, you're going to be biased one way or another. Somehow it figured out that it was a trick question. It said, I would be a member of the one true religion, the Jedi Order. And I laughed, because not only was it a funny joke, somehow it figured out that it was a trick question.
And it has a sense of humor.
Exactly.
But look, there has been massive pushback from not just Google, but other people who've worked at Google, AI ethics experts, even your own former colleague, Margaret Mitchell, who's pushed back on the work that Google is doing in AI, saying, no, this computer is not a person and does not have feelings and is not conscious. How do you respond to that?
Well, so I highly respect Meg. We talk about this regularly. It's not a difference in scientific opinion.
So right there, when he says it's not a difference in scientific opinion, I was like, okay, something's fishy here. Where is he coming from? What's he saying?
It has to do with beliefs about the soul. It has to do with beliefs about rights and politics. As far as the science goes of what experiments to run and how to work at building a theoretical framework, because that's important. There is no scientific definition for any of these words. The philosopher John Searle calls it pre-theoretic. We need to do very basic foundational work to just figure out what we're talking about when we use these words. And that's work that Google is preventing from being done right now.
Explain that.
Well, I've worked with scientists inside of Google, such as Blaise Aguirre-Arcas, another one named Johnny Soroker. We talked about what a decent way to proceed might be. We brainstormed, we came up with different things. Now, all three of us disagree.
So, what do you? I mean, first of all, what do you think about that?
Well, I want to see the transcript where the AI responded that it was going to be a member of the one true religion, the Jedi Order, when asked about the Israel thing. I honestly just don't believe it. I think it's bullshit.
I think he's lying.
Crap. I think he's lying. I could be wrong about that. I doubt it, but there's no way to validate that. But beyond that, so he brings up an excellent point, though. One thing that humans have that would be very difficult, or is very difficult to replicate, hell, most humans can't even do it, is humor. So,
but if you had data sources of all of the best stand-up comedians ever, all of the comedic classics, if you had access to these databases, it seems to me that you would be able to replicate humor as a non-sentient AI. And I think the other thing, and just to give more context to Blake's personal viewpoints, he is an ordained Christian mystic priest and believes that Google's Lambda AI technology has a soul. He claims the program is a person and not Google's property, but the company disagrees. Lemons also believes that digital humans are sentient beings entitled to respect and care. And I always say please to Alexa. It's just out of fear. But it seems to me that he is a scientist who's coming into this loaded with religious bias. And I wonder if that's a big piece of what he's actually doing here.
Well, I mean, I think that begs the question, is it that he's loaded with religious bias, or is he leveraging what he already knows as a potential audience for a really unique viewpoint for himself so that he can go have his 15 minutes in the limelight?
I think that's what's happening here. I think this is a celebrity play, or just, trying to get people, interested in his religious philosophy, as opposed to whether or not, these machines can become sentient. He believes they are, which is, to me, that's just obviously
I don't
absurd.
think we're anywhere near that from a technological perspective. But I mean, even if we were much closer, yeah, I think you're right, Mike. I mean, I think he's really just trying to get some publicity here.
Yeah, I think so too. Our last segment for the evening, and we're definitely going to wrap it up here shortly, but I wanted to, first of all, again, say thank you so much to everybody who has supported the show, who's here today. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, hit the bell, share it out. It means the world to us. For those of you who supported the show with your super chats, thank you so much. It is absolutely appreciated. The last thing I wanted to share is some other amazing AI apps. If you could share quickly Perplexity, Randy. This is a really interesting app that you can access right now, and it's similar to ChatGPT, but what it does is gives you shorter answers. One of the things right now, a limitation of ChatGPT, is that it can only access information through 2021. So yeah, what do you got here? Why didn't Chewbacca get a medal? Let's see what it comes up with. And so
that's an ethical question.
Chewbacca didn't get a medal because Wookiees don't put much stock in awards or accolades. George Lucas has explained that medals don't mean much to them, and Chewbacca himself refused the award before the ceremony. It has also been suggested that Carrie Fisher couldn't reach his neck to put the medal on. And what this app is doing is it's gathering, and you can see the sources. It's giving you the sources that it's using to gather the information. And again, this is current. So this is actually using what's on the web now, whereas ChatGPT only has access to information as recent in 2021. But you can go to Perplexity right now and start using this. You got another fun one there, Randy. When will the this will be a good one. When will this singularity happen? Let's see what it comes up with. I love asking AI about the singularity. There's nothing cooler than that. Ray Kurzweil predicts the singularity will happen by 2045, while other experts believe it could occur as soon as 2050. Some research suggests humanity may achieve singularity within the next 7 years. That's coming from Wikipedia, futurism.com, Popular Mechanics, and AImultiple.com. So all really interesting. If you could pull up the other one, it's called Futurepedia. This
that
is
Perplexity is actually so much better than waiting for horrible Quora answers for anyone who uses that.
I'm sure it will use. I'm sure you can. It will use Quora as a source as well. So this is called Futurepedia, and this is a AI technology that searches the internet for AI type apps that you can use today. So you can actually type in. Let's see if we can type in something like meme generator or something. Let's see if it pulls anything up, or avatar generator or something like that. Let's see what we got. Okay, it's only got one. Generate original memes powered by AI in 110 languages. Step up your meme marketing game with AI. So you can literally go to this and start looking for apps, AI apps that might serve particular purposes. So this is definitely a very cool. Here's an avatar one. I used one of these for today's show. For some reason, the AI gave me hair in the thumbnail for today's show. I'm not sure if that was a dig, but... Was it exemplifying humor? I don't know.
It was just pulling from your soul, Mike, where your hair is still
where my hair exists. But I mean, again, this is only going to get faster. People are building AI apps every day. They're using OpenAI as a source API, as well as many other language models. So it's very interesting what we're seeing here. We're going to continue to see this evolve. We're gonna have our thumbs on this. So if you're passionate about staying up to date on the singularity, on evolving technology, on human civilization, and how we evolved over time, we've also got some cool other things that we're working on. Brooks specifically is working on another really interesting part of the show, which we will. Do you want to tease that at all, Brooks, or should we wait until we're in a more solid place?
We can tease that a little bit. I mean,
yeah.
So Mike and I kind of have come up with an idea, and we're going to be putting together a narrative across the history of humanity and how it's interacted with food, and how food has driven us from an evolutionary and a civilization perspective. And we're going to call it, what do we end up with? Fire and fermentation, something like that?
Yeah, fire and fermentation, to talk about, food, how food and drink has evolved humanity and our relationship with food throughout history. So we're going to be using that to look back on our past as a civilization. And we're going to be using the Singularity Lab to look forward. And so if either of those are in your wheelhouse, make sure you like and subscribe. We're going to be uploading this audio as well. So you can go to Apple Podcast and search Singularity Lab, and you can listen on the go. Any final words of wisdom, Brooks, that you want to share with folks?
I don't think I have anything too big. Just, if you are going to go and create sentient AI, just teach it nice things, I guess.
Yeah, and keep us informed, because we'd like to we'd like to share with you. And if you guys have ideas for this show that you want to share, feel free to drop those in the chat, and we will we'll catch you guys on the flip side. It's been amazing, and we appreciate you all. And we'll be back every Monday at 7 p.m. And I am curious if Mondays at 7 works for you guys. So if you like us on at Monday at 7 p.m., give us a thumbs up. If you have any other thoughts, feel free to drop those in the comment section as well. Other than that, it's been wonderful being with you all today. I look forward to bringing you all this week in and week out to keep an eye on where we're headed.
Thanks, everybody.
Ooh, what do we got here? Is this a video, Randy? I can't tell. Oh, we're just saying goodbye.
Data
Goodbye,
meeting data. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Awesome. Bye-bye, everyone.